Very much, Keith, and thank you to Jamesway Chickmaster Incubator Company for taking the risk and allowing a Canadian chicken farmer veterinarian to present on your fantastic webinar series. I know our team here spends a lot of time on the webinar series, and we learn a lot and continue to learn a lot. And I think the main premise of my presentation is really to shine a bright light onto how important it is to focus in on incubation and embryology and also as they hatch and get transported to the farm. A little background on myself: I grew up, my parents immigrated from Northern Ireland, and they started a feed company in 1968. And I attended school at University of British Columbia, and I studied linear programming at the time and feed formulation. And then I took off and worked on nutrition, did my master's at University of Arkansas. So I am actually an officially approved hog collar, Canadian hog collar. And then I went on to veterinary school, and in 1989 established a company, Canadian Poultry Consultants, and in 92 we started farming. And I've been fortunate to be able to make a lot of mistakes along the way, and by doing that, we learn a lot. So what I'm going to do is go straight into my presentation here. There we go. So producing platinum chicks, chick vitality. I like to, a lot of times when growing up, we talk about chick quality, and I kind of like the term vitality. It tells us has more of a holistic approach to the concept of chick quality. And then I like to break it down into 4-5 areas of focus: the physical characteristics of the chick, the microbiological characteristics, and nutritional and metabolic and immunological. And when we really focus in on it, some of the incubation process is so important in all these areas. And then the other thing, learning as a producer, how important this chick vitality is to the ultimate goal of optimum animal welfare, sustainability. And sustainability to me is one of the most important parts of sustainability is feed conversion. And of course, food safety and profitability. I'm really fortunate here since I work with an enthusiastic team. And this team, they're younger than me, and they're motivated and highly talented. And the key is they get up in the wee hours of the morning and the late hours of the night, and they learn about the things that we have to do to focus on prevention. I'd also like to give some credit to Dr. Chang-Hee Lee, who was a MAM student at the University of Georgia. And Chang-Hee took a great interest in this producing platinum chicks, and she helped me produce this presentation in a format that's, you got to remember, I'm of the age where I used Kodachromes to give my presentation. So I want to really thank Dr. Lee, who's now a regional technical veterinarian in Asia Pacific for Avigen. So a little bit of history on that left picture is my dad. He went to school for about 8 years in Glasgow and served in the war, and then came to Canada after, and that's a picture of a Quelic computer that formulated about 10 ingredients, and it took up the whole room. And then the picture in the center, I found my textbook from 1978. I was Dr. Skeel's inaugural student, one of his inaugural students, and I found my notes from the University of Arkansas. And that's quite a few years ago. And when I looked into the notes, I couldn't believe how up to date they were, and that was 1978. And now we're sitting in, and I go home in the evening, and I say, "Hey Siri," or "Hey Google," or "Hey Alexis, hey, can you play some relaxing jazz?" And things have really changed a lot. And maybe there'll come a time where we go in and say, "Hey hatchery, hey pilot egg, tell me how it's going today." To go back into the conditions that we're dealing in right now, I was at a hockey game with a friend who on March the 10th, and it was a great hockey game, which is pretty important to us. But this is the day after that hockey game, the World Health Organization declared a pandemic, and March 17th in the province of British Columbia declared a state of emergency. And if you you look at how important this is in prevention, and we're going through it and we're living it right now. And our hockey team on March 31st had an outbreak, and it took them out of the league, and 8 games have postponed. And so it's been a very significant part of our life, obviously. And part of the issue is what we call this prevention paradox. And why do I talk about this in view of chick vitality? Well, if we work hard and get optimum chick vitality, we can prevent a lot of diseases, a lot of metabolic issues from happening. So this is a letter that was written in the Epidemiological Community Health Journal, and it helps explain the prevention paradox and why prevention is tough to sell. So going back again, here's the title, Chick Vitality. We're going to concentrate on physical, microbiological, nutritional, metabolic, and immunological. Our colleagues in Australia produced this video, and it's just outstanding. And it talks about how important it shows how important and how complex this development is. And this is why, as a veterinarian and as a nutritionist and as a farmer, we're learning that the importance of optimum incubation, optimum transfer, and optimum hatching conditions and takeoff and so on are so important to the physical, microbiological, nutritional, metabolic, and immunological status of the bird. And we can look at this video and stop it in different places. But right around day 18 or so, we see there's a transfer happening, and the optimum transfer happens. And this is where we're working really hard to understand that. And right around day 20 or so, the pipping process and the hatch profile. And so it's such a fascinating field. And what we're after is to produce, okay, we called it a platinum chick. And whenever we talk about farming, we always focus in on biodefense or biosecurity after going through an avian flu outbreak or after going through just any infectious disease. Biodefense or sanitation and isolation and security are just paramount to our entire industry. Brooding is something we've started to focus in on, probably 18 years ago, and we're bringing structure and discipline to that. And then managing metabolic heat, probably right around 2012, we started to really focus in on that. And so this particular presentation has behind it a lot of information that we've developed over the years and continue to develop, because it is it's such an amazing journey. And behind it here is this Mandalay system of all the literature and things that back up some of the projects that we're working on. So I take this simplified slide, and this picture could represent the hatchery. And on the left of the picture would be your hatching egg production, your breeders, eggs, how long they're sitting on the floor, etc. They come in, they incubate, yolk sac utilization. But our goal is to produce more of these chicks here and less of these marginal chicks. And a lot of the hatchery experts have presented this over and over again. And I guess I'm just one to just really emphasize how important it is to listen to the hatchery experts in optimizing chick development. And you can see this chick weighs 42 grams and this one weighs 42 grams, but there are differences, and we'll go through that. So here's our hatchery here in the middle, and our goal is to take these hatching eggs that are fertile, hatch them properly, produce more of these platinum chicks so that they can go to market and be more uniform, less condemnations. And one of the earliest benefits you'll see is improved feed conversion. So what describes a platinum chick? Well, it's one that has the color, and I'm going to repeat it, but that yolk sac contains very important ingredients, carophylls, xanthophylls in nature that are very important for reproductive integrity and so on. They're very active. These chicks are very active, and they're looking forward to getting a bite to eat and a drink of water when they hit the brood chamber. The yolk sac's been utilized, and it's been utilized properly. And in that yolk sac are micro and macronutrients that are so important, zinc, for instance, amino acids, fatty acids, and so on. And the other metric is these chicks tend to be a little taller that we've found. And this is also in the literature. And our goal is, because the genetics are so good, so they're so amazing at converting feed and water into meat, that our goal is to achieve that genetic potential by increasing their vitality. And one of the benefits of producing more chicks that have their yolk sac utilized properly and stand straight and up is that you don't need the formaldehydes and the products like antibiotics to help out. You can rely on robustness. I guess a good term would be robustness. So here's a marginal chick, and the yolk sac is just not absorbed properly. And these chicks are paler, they're less active, their yolk sacs are unabsorbed, and they're shorter. And part of this complex of issues involves an impaired immune system. They're more susceptible to infectious disease. And this is something I'm taking a reach of faith out here, but I strongly believe that these chicks are more susceptible to viral challenges that they may be exposed to in the hatchery or in the field or wherever. Ossification, gut health, and metabolic imbalance, and we'll go into that a little bit more. So the potential impact of overheating is quite significant. We've been looking at glycogen reserves and following that, trying to use morphometrics and special staining, increased lactic acid and increased muscle fatigue, trying to help with acid-base balance, negative effects on influence on bone ossification, and tight junction permeability. You know, I was told by one of my professors that you know, a racehorse that overheats and after the race they become septicemic, and it's because that tight junction, the intestinal tight junction, has allowed bacteria into the system. And sometimes these bacteria will float around in the blood system and they'll land somewhere, and they may land in a thoracic vertebrae such as T6, and you'll end up with a spondylolisthesis with an abscess and a kinky back syndrome. And we also see more infection. We see, you know, if the hatchers are a little too hot in some areas, we'll see button navels. We can see yolk sacs that aren't utilized, and they're more susceptible to the E. coli that may be around.